Okay, so in Algebra 2 and in Pre-Cal, you do a little bit of graphing conics in rectangular form with the functions, or not even functions, but just equations. And you learn all these little tricks about, formulas for how to know whether it's going to be a circle or an ellipse or a hyperbola and also parabola. So there's these formulas that I know them, but I don't ever use them, because when I see an equation, I just reason through it, okay? You will at some point learn every single parent function for all of these, and there are some definite distinct differences between them. So if you're given equations in standard form, how are you going to know which of these shapes it's going to be? Well, let me give you a hint, okay? So I'm just going to make up a couple of equations. Minus 6y plus 11. Okay, so sometimes they look like this, where they're all scrambled and weird, and you're like, I don't know what this is. Okay, so pretty much here's how I deal with it. I always look for the squared terms, okay? Now, if there are both terms squared, both the x and the y are squared, I can eliminate parabola. Okay, because its function only has one term that's squared. So I know it's not a parabola. I'm down to these three. The next thing I look for is positive and negative, and the reason for that is if these are both positive terms, which they are, there's a plus here and an inferred plus there, then it's not a hyperbola, because once you do the equation for hyperbola, you're going to learn that it has a minus sign in the equation. So I'm down to circle and ellipse. And the way that I know that it's a circle is because I look at these threes and they match, okay? Because I know a little bit about transformations and dilations, and what this is telling me is that I'm going to be stretching my circle by a factor of 3. That's the way my brain thinks about it. So I'm stretching it evenly in all directions, both left and right, and up and down. So that's going to form a circle when I'm graphing it, okay? So let's turn this circle into an ellipse. Well, in order for that to happen, it's going to be like the same equation pretty much. The only difference is going to be that's going to be a different number. It could be a 1, there could be nothing there, or it could be, like I just made it a 4. So notice all the stuff's the same. I still circle both of my squared terms. They're both still positive, but now they have different numbers in the front. And what this tells me is that I'm going to be stretching it left and right by a factor of 3, but I'm going to be stretching it up and down by a factor of 4, which is going to make it a little taller than it is wide, and that is going to give me my ellipse, okay? So now a hyperbola. The hyperbola is the most easily identifiable one of all, in my opinion. I lie, parabola is actually easier, but hyperbola is not bad either, because it could be the same equation that I wrote here or here. It could be either one. It could be the same equation I wrote. The only difference is, did you catch it? Did you see what I just did? What's the difference between green equation and black equation? You got it, the minus sign. If either of these with the squareds have a minus, if either of them are negative, it's going to be a hyperbola, okay? And what usually happens is I would know, or I would guess, that this one is side to side, because, well, you'll learn more about that later, but the one that's positive tells you the orientation, and then the one that's behind the minus tells you just, oh, it's going to be a hyperbola. So that's what it's probably going to look like. Okay, and so now the last one that's the easiest is the parabola. Parabolas are so easy to identify, guys, because it's this equation, except you're missing one of the squareds. Did you see that? I just totally dropped off that term altogether. Only the y has a squared, the x does not. This is going to be a parabola. Or it could be vice versa. The squared could be here, and there could be nothing there, and that would also make it a parabola. So there you have it, the 4, in my opinion, easiest ways to tell what your shape's going to be. And in other videos, I'll actually graph shapes for you. Thank you so much.